Hello, everyone, and welcome to the seventh episode of Don't Forget the Popcorn. In the spirit of Halloween, I will be discussing my 10 favorite horror films. These aren't the films I think are the greatest horror films ever made, but the horror movies I enjoy the most and grew up on. This is solely my opinion. Make sure you tell me your favorite scary movie in the comments below. This is my favorite horror movies of all time. Number 10. The Shining, 1980, directed by Stanley Kubrick. The Shining is one of those movies that, as it goes on, you start feeling like you're losing your mind with the character. Jack Torrance is brilliantly played by Jack Nicholson, and Shelley Duvall, I think, gives one of the most underrated performances in this film. She goes hard, man, and her and Kubrick beefed the whole time they filmed this film. They had a lot of issues, but ultimately a great film came out. And I know a lot of people uh, don't like the fact that the book and the film are very, very different, and they are different. I won't spoil this movie, but it's about a guy who goes to work at a hotel and kind of watch over it in the wintertime in the off season. And this hotel is truly the villain of this story. And you ultimately see a character study of a failed writer going insane. Guys, if you haven't seen The Shining, that is a must watch for this Halloween season. Number 9, Scream, 1996, directed by Wes Craven. What makes Scream great is it's pretty much a satire on the entire horror genre, all while being one of the best horror films ever made. I think Scream is one of those films that a lot of people do consider a horror classic now that it's been out for almost 20 years. Over 20 years. Scream is such a funny film. Scream makes you laugh, but at the same time, it's terrifying. It's a cool, little whodunit kind of murder mystery movie. And I love films like that. I think they're very fun, very interesting. It's always fun to play the guessing game. And even the other Scream films are pretty good if you like them. I thought Scream 2 was pretty good. Scream 3 was a little weak. 4 was all right. But I think Scream 5 is awesome as well. Scream 5, a lot of people did hate on it, but I thought it was ultimately a funny ass movie that I enjoyed thoroughly. Scream, if you have not seen Scream, I don't know what you're waiting on. I think it's streaming on Paramount Plus. Don't quote me, but I think it is. But if you don't, just get it on Blu ray. Number 8, Halloween, 1978, directed by John Carpenter. This was the first Halloween movie, and it's truly the best one by far. I am a fan of Halloween 3, but other than that, Halloween 2 is okay, but other than that, Halloween, John Carpenter, 1978 is really the one. And the reason this movie is great because it's so scary and suspenseful without a lot of killing. If you've seen this film, then you know not that many people die. And it's not this gruesome film that's super gory and gross, but the suspense building and how creepy Michael Myers is just woo, it gets under your skin. And the score to this movie is so dope. There's a reason this is one of the most iconic scores you've ever heard. Everyone, even if you haven't seen Halloween, everyone knows that score. They know that song, that everyone knows that. And just that opening shot in the credits when you see the little jack-o'-lantern with the Halloween next to it and you hear that score, you know you're in for a great time. Such a fun film. Gotta watch it if you haven't seen it. Number 7, Alibaba, 1964, directed by Kanito Shindo. This here is a Japanese horror film, and honestly, this is a great film, but the genre of it can be discussed and gone over many times. A lot of people call it a horror. Some people call it a drama. Some people call it a period piece. People put it in all different types of genres. But ultimately, it is a horror film at the end of the day. This movie is about two women who are living in poverty during the war times. And what they do is they kill samurai and they sell their armor for money so they can eat. And the war is coming to an end, so there's some conflict going on. And ultimately, these two women have something coming between them that kind of drives a wedge into their relationship. And these guys, they start doing some stuff, going behind each other's backs. And I'm not even going to tell you what makes it a horror film. You just got to watch it for yourself and figure it out if you haven't seen it. If you've seen this movie, you know how great the ending is, you know how fun it is. Guys, I know a lot of people don't like foreign films, but you got to check this one out. And trust me, it's worth it. It's such an interesting, hypnotic, trippy, trans-like movie. Make sure you check out Alibaba. Number 6, Child's Play, 1988, directed by Tom Holland. This guy, not this guy. Child's Play is one of those films that you go into it. If you're watching it now, if you're seeing it for the first time now or even a few years ago, you probably went into it thinking, "Oh my god, it's gonna be a corny '80s horror movie," and I guarantee you were scared when you're watching it. Child's Play is another whodunit type of movie, and we all know who done it, but in the film, it's like who done it. And man, something about Chucky just gets under your skin, man. And I don't want to. There's some great quotes in this film, and I don't want to give anything away, but this movie, it insanely builds such suspense for such a low budget, like simple concept, but it builds some crazy suspense. There is there's so many times during this film when you watch it, you're just gonna be on edge and you know something's gonna happen. You're just waiting and you're waiting and you know it's coming and you still are just terrified. And there's some really cool kills in this movie. If you ain't seen the original Child's Play, don't be swayed by, that 80s vibe if you don't like 80s horror films, because some people think they suck, but watch Child's Play. It's great. Number 5. Rosemary's Baby, 1968, directed by Roman Polanski. Now, Rosemary's Baby is it's honestly it's kind of hard to call it a horror film. A lot of people probably wouldn't even classify it as a horror film, but it is a horror film because I'm telling you, this movie it's weirdly unsettling, but it's not a gruesome film. There's not blood or crazy kills or nothing like that. And honestly, no one even dies in it. It's a horror film that you're just wondering, like, what the F is going on the whole time? Mia Farrow gives a amazing performance in this movie. She is going so hard as Rosemary, and she is as you're watching this woman go through what she's going through, you just want to help her so bad. You just want to scream out and be like, "Ah, help this lady, believe her." And my man John Cassavetes, love him. He gives a great performance, even though I can't stand him in the film. And Ruth Gordon as Minnie. Guys, if you don't know who Ruth Gordon is, make sure you check out some Ruth Gordon movies. She is just a gem. She's so charismatic in any role she plays, even though she is technically a villain in this movie. She warms your heart. That voice of hers, just her cadence, it's just amazing, guys. Make sure you watch Rosemary's Baby if you haven't. Number 4, Jaws, 1975, directed by Steven Spielberg. Now, before we even start talking about Jaws, this is a horror film, okay? It is scary. And I don't care what anyone says. If you weren't scared of Jaws when you first saw it, and I don't care when you first saw it, you're a steel door, you're a trap door, you're just the guy. Because Jaws had me terrified. I just was like, felt like I was gonna get eaten at any moment. I felt like the shark was gonna just pop out and eat me. The amazing part about Jaws is that Jaws builds so much suspense and you barely see the shark. You see the shark, if you add up the time the shark is actually on the screen, it's probably less than 20 minutes. You don't see the shark that much. You see little parts of the shark. The shark had issues, it kept breaking down. And they figured out a way to make the shark scary without being seen a lot. And that's all due to the amazing score in the film. The score, whoo, it just creeps down you, and it's one of those things that puts you right on the edge, and you're biting your nails. You can't blink, but you can't look away, and you're just terrified. And Jaws is amazing. Jaws is one of the best movies ever made in general. What Steven Spielberg was able to accomplish with this film is just, it's groundbreaking. You know, his first big summer blockbuster. It set a whole model for the modern way we distribute films today. So, guys, if you ain't seen Jaws, you really need to, I don't know what you're doing. You really need to get on your stuff. Number three, Carrie, 1976, directed by Brian De Palma. Carrie is one of those movies that you just can't help but love, man. And I gotta say, it's all due to two things: Brian De Palma's brilliant direction and Sissy Spacek's brilliant performance. Sissy Spacek in this movie, whoo, that girl is so creepy, and she just, when you just look at her, she puts a chill down your spine. And she's an innocent person in this movie. She's a sweet girl. She's a normal girl. She doesn't, what she becomes and why she does the things she does is because of the results of the people, the way they're treating her around her. And Carrie's one of those films that it builds and builds and builds. Nothing crazy happens, but that climax is all worth it in the end. The third act of Carrie is brilliant. And Sissy Spacek's performance in it and Brian De Palma's direction, just, man, it scares the piss out of you. I don't want to spoil any of these, but I feel like everybody's seen this movie by now. That final scene, when they're in the gym, and it's such a big movie in pop culture. If you haven't seen Carrie, you still at least know what happened. When the blood hits the woman, man, you just know it's on. And when it's on, guys. Carrie is easily one of the best horror and just best films ever made. Number two, The Exorcist, 1973, directed by William Friedkin. The Exorcist, come on. It's the go-to for the scariest movie ever made. If you look at any scariest movies ever made list, The Exorcist will probably be in the top 5 of it, if not number 1. The Exorcist is one of those movies that as you watch it, man, you just start feeling so horrible for the characters in here, man. Like, the characters in this movie and what they're going through is just, it's so heartbreaking, but it's so scary and so funny at the same time. Linda Blair playing Regan is easily one of the best child performances of all time. She should have won an Oscar. Linda Blair is so funny in this movie, yet so creepy, yet so scary, yet so innocent. And she's all of these things wrapped into one character. And I think don't quote me, I believe she was 14 when she did this performance. Man, for a 14-year-old to deliver this kind of range in a horror movie, just nothing like it. Nothing like it. It was just absolutely insane. So when you look at the film and you see what's going on, you just can't help but feel bad for this girl. There's a crazy scene in it where they give her like a real CAT scan, and it's pretty accurate to how they did it at the times. And you're just like, what the hell is going on here? And the ending is just brilliant, man. Like, come on, the power of Christ compels you. Like, it's such a quotable film, and it's one of those ones that, I don't know, it just kind of makes you feel so good yet so bad by the time it's over. Brilliant ending, brilliant film throughout, one of the best of all time. Before we reveal the best, gonna give some honorable mentions. I got 10. There is no rhyme or reason to these 10, no particular order, just ones that didn't make the cut. The Babadook, From Dusk Till Dawn, The Descent, The Bride of Chucky, Cabin Fever, The Witch, The Faculty, The Thing. And yes, The Thing is a horror movie, even though it is kind of a sci-fi movie. It's a horror sci-fi, okay? The Platform, The Blair Witch Project. All right, the number one film that I think is the best horror movie of all time. Hereditary, 2018, directed by Ari Aster. Hereditary was a film that when it came out, the people didn't like it. The critics loved it. The critics ate it all up. But the people were not fans of Hereditary. I think it has a D plus on Cinescore. When I first saw Hereditary, I was mortified. And I don't know why. I was just in a state of mind, I guess, where I was just really susceptible to being scared. But when I watched it again, I was equally as scared the first time. So it wasn't a fluke. Hereditary is one of those simple kind of supernatural, spiritual horror films, but the way it's delivered is like none other. The characters in this movie are freaking awesome. Toni Collette gives one of the best horror film performances of all time. She got snubbed at the Oscars. I don't care what anyone says. Horror movies, action movies, films like that, they get snubbed at Oscars. She got snubbed. She should at least got a nomination. This movie is brilliant, and a big part of it is because of Toni Collette's performance. Toni Collette, she is, man, she just makes you feel so like, she makes you feel awful for her. But at the same time, there's moments where you don't like her. And I love when people can turn the charm on and off like that. You get a great child performance in this film. The character of Charlie, oh my lord. Charlie is one of the coolest characters I've ever seen in a horror film. And when you see what happens to Charlie, your jaw is gonna smack the floor. I guarantee it. If you've never seen this movie, your jaw is gonna smack the floor. I guarantee it. Hereditary is one of the most unsettling, bone chilling, make your hair stand up films that I have ever seen across any movie. Because other movies can make your hair stand up even if they're not scary. This movie, it's so fun, yet scary, and just so satisfying. I do not know what it is, but I just love Hereditary. It's easily one of my favorite films. If you have not seen that, make sure you watch it this Halloween season. Guys, we are going to wrap it up there. Make sure you comment down below what's your favorite scary movie. And don't forget the popcorn.